Good evening. I'm Jamie Gelosian, the Director of Community Development for Haverford Township, and I'd like to bring the Planning Commission Reorganization meeting of January 9th, 2025 to order at 7:06. And I'm going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I'm going to call roll. David Shannon,
Present.
Maggie Dobbs, here. Stephen Welsh,
Present.
Angelo Capuzzi,
Here.
Lou Montresor,
Here.
Victor Cortese,
Here.
and Kimberly Jusak. Here. All right, beginning with agenda item number 1, which will be the appointment of the chairperson of the Planning Commission for 2025. Is there a nomination?
I nominate Maggie Dobbs as chair.
I'll second that.
And any discussion? All right.
Maggie is obviously very well qualified and has served well on our planning commission.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Ms. Dobbs.
Thank you. Moving on, we will nominate a person to serve as vice chair. Do I have a nomination?
Maggie, I'd like to nominate David Shannon to be vice chairman for 2025.
And is there a second?
I'll second that.
Call for a vote? So just aye if yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Favor? Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. Congratulations, David.
Thank you.
Motion to appoint a secretary. Is there a motion?
Assuming Steve is still in favor of doing it, I'll nominate Steve Walsh for secretary for 2025.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
All right. Lou seconds.
I wear the shoe.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Congratulations, Steve.
Thanks.
Motion to appoint a scribe and secretary for the year 2025. I would like to nominate Marge Buchanan. Do I have a second?
Second.
David beat you, I think. David seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, moving on. Agenda item 2C, motion to set the 2025 calendar of meetings for the Planning Commission. They're outlined on the agenda, so I'll just quickly read them. So they're February 13th, March 13th, April 10th, May 8th, June 12th, July 10th, August 14th, September 11th, October 9th, November 13th, and December 11th.
That's still the second Thursday of the month.
That will be, yes, correct, the second Thursday of the month.
I'll move we adopt that schedule.
Second?
Second.
David seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Finally, we have meetings shall convene at what time p.m.? So we're going to do 7 p.m. I would like to move that we start the meetings at 7 p.m. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Lou seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, so before we move on to our next agenda items, I wanted just to give a word of thanks to Rob and Julia for their service on the Planning Commission. Rob served for 8 years and Julia was here for 4 years. Their insights and participation was invaluable and we greatly enjoyed having their presence here on the Planning Commission, so wanted to just thank them for their service.
Here, here.
And also I wanted to go ahead and introduce our 2 new members. So Kim and Vic, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, please, and tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Hi, my name is Kim Jezak. I am an architect, and I've worked on projects professionally all throughout Philadelphia and the surrounding areas. I'm very excited to be on this commission. 8.
Hi, everybody. Vic Cortese. I am a resident of Haverford, Ward 9. My background, I was a military officer for 10 years and then went into real estate development for affordable housing, social impact work. I've done projects in and around Philadelphia, as far as Santa Fe, New Mexico, involved in Jacksonville currently, and I'm really excited to be here, and I feel honored to be a part of this commission. So thank you. Looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you and welcome to you both. All right, moving on to agenda item 3. We are here to consider a lot consolidation plan for 30 Ellis Road. Thomas and Joanne Story are the applicants. Do we have somebody present here on behalf of the applicants? Hi, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Story. I live at 30 Ellis Road. I was here in December and for request for consolidation, and at that time you asked for a waiver for our sidewalk and curbing, which we did submit the waiver, and I'm hoping that that will be our final requirement.
All right, thank you. So just to summarize for you, Joanne, so you're proposing to consolidate 4 existing lots into a single lot totaling 32,212 square feet. No construction is proposed as part of this application. Remind us again the reason for the consolidation.
One, just because we kind of want to keep it as one non-buildable, the 2 lots that could be buildable, non-buildable, and also to just simplify taxes, those kinds of things.
Okay, thank you. So what I'd like to do is just ask the Planning Commission if you have any comments or questions, and I'm just going to go down the line. So we'll start with Steve.
No questions. Do you want any comments on waivers, I guess?
Yeah, anything you have.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to granting any of these waivers. I'm pretty familiar with the neighborhood. I live right down the street from there. And
there's no
there's no
sidewalks on our
sidewalks
side.
on that side. There's a bunch of mature trees lining that whole side. There's also a big grade difference. So, to put in a sidewalk, you'd have large earthwork, and it would also be kind of a sidewalk to nowhere because all the
Exactly.
adjacent properties up and down don't have sidewalks. So.
And Joanne, remind me, there's sidewalk on the opposite side of
There
the
is a
street,
sidewalk
correct?
on the opposite side, none on our side, and there's no really room to have sidewalk on that side.
Thank you. Lou?
I echo Steve's comments.
I have no objections to the waiver.
Thank you.
No comments.
No comments.
No comments here. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? Seeing none, is there a recommendation to, is there a motion to recommend approval of the proposed lot consolidation plan for 30 Ellis Road?
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the lot consolidation plan for Mr. and Mrs. Story located at 30 Ellis Road. And I believe there are no outstanding issues from the township engineer's perspective, correct? So I recommend we recommend approval to the commissioners for
Does the approval include the waiver?
including the waiver for the sidewalk.
Second?
Okay, so we have a motion from Angelo and a second from David. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Have a good night. You too. Okay, moving on. Next agenda item, we have a preliminary final land development plan proposal for the address at 780/788 College Avenue. The applicant is proposing to consolidate those 2 lots to construct a building addition with associated parking lot improvements and stormwater management. This property is in the R2 residential zoning district. And we did hear from this applicant at last month's Planning Commission meeting, so you're back with revised plans. And if we could have the representative from the applicant, please come up and introduce yourself.
Certainly. Robert Scott is an attorney working with me on this project. He's done a number of projects with me in this township as well. And actually, Bob covers the position as municipal legal counsel with about 5 municipalities in Delaware County. So Pleasure to have him. I'm Bob Lynn. I've met most of you. Welcome aboard. I'm the principal of Lynn Architects, and again, very quickly, a firm of architects, civil engineers, and code officials. I'm not going to regurgitate everything I did last meeting, but maybe I'll give you a 2-minute summary, especially with, we have 2 new members, if that's appropriate. Tell you what the project's about. Yeah, and we have, whether you have these or not, I'm not sure. There's a couple little handouts with a reduced copy plan that was revised. There's a lighting cut sheet in there. There's a letter from the Shade Tree Commission, which you might already have, and a couple other loose pieces. There's also an aerial fold-out photograph in the back, which might help you a little bit. And then I'll quickly. Oh, weird, I gave you 1:15 to start. This is a pleasure. I'm going to go through engineer's review letter in detail with you, but I just wanted you to have a copy of our response to it in case you didn't. A lot of information back and forth, and sometimes flow across the line. Also with me tonight, probably the most important people in the room, Rabbi himself and his wife Blumi. His name is spelled E-L-I, first name is pronounced Eli versus Eli. So it took me about 6 months to get that straight, but I'm getting close now. And they have been in the house for a number of years. How many years now? 14 years. But they're moving out of the house as part of this project. They're going to make it strictly a Chabad house, and I'll go over the details of that in a second. Very quickly, we started this project about 1.5 years ago. The very first step was to go.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lynn, if you could please use the microphone, that'll help with the recording and taking of meeting minutes. Thank you.
That's right. Thanks. We started this project about 1.5 years ago. One of our first stops was to go to zoning because this has to be a special exception in a residentially zoned district. We went to the zoning hearing board on June 7th of 2024, and we received a unanimous approval for the special exception. So that was the first important step. We've been working back and forth with the rabbi and his wife as well to develop a plan that represents an addition to the existing house. This is 2 lots, if you recall. We have 780 and 788 College side by side. 780 has had a house on it for a long, long time. 788 has been vacant. So they had the ability to acquire the lot immediately next door, and they have it under agreement. Basically, the 2 lots together are just under an acre, 0.95 acres. And they're proposing a 3,400 square foot addition to the existing house, which I went over in a little bit of detail at the last meeting. We, at the last meeting, if you recall, and by the way, very importantly, immediately to their left side or their west side is a neighbor who came out in strong support of this project at the original zoning hearing, which was important. To the right side is a house owned by the college, which is the east side. And across the street, of course, is the college. And I believe I read into the record last time, we got a nice letter of endorsement from the vice president of the college supporting our project and supporting the ability to park, as they always have, in writing on the college campus across the street, because they have a lot of surplus parking. It's not a parking-heavy generated project, but occasionally there's a couple extra cars, and it's nice to know we have that buffer across the street. So I read, I believe, that letter to you last time. I have a copy. I can read it again if you'd like to hear about it in any capacity. I got a no there. Okay, it was 2 no's. Okay.
Excuse me, as I recall, you also talked last time about the support you had from the neighbors and the community.
We got amazing support. Yeah, we got 0 opposition at the zoning hearing. We got some support from the community. Thank you for reminding me of that. It was a pleasure to be there at the zoning hearing, which is always putting your toe in the water, if you will, on a land development project. And it was a positive. But having the college's support, because this particular organization supports the needs of the students, the Jewish students, and others at the college. It's really important to know that it's a symbiotic relationship, and I've seen evidence of that throughout my dealings with the project. So it's a good project. I can do a lot more background, and I can answer any detailed questions. I know I can't bring the 2 of you up to speed, but I'm trying. But what I think I might want to do, if it's okay with Mr. Faulkner and Jamie, is to go through the review letter we received in early January and explain what we have addressed, what we still have to address, what we will comply with, and any outstanding topics that are floating in that letter. Is that appropriate at this point? Mr. Faulkner, is that all right? Okay, thank you. And by the way, I think since it's only one paragraph, can I just read that letter real quickly from Haverford College again? Would you mind? Just it talks about the support. It's dated April 20. This is out of my Planning Commission exhibit booklet, so I'm just reading applicants 15. April 29th, and this is authored by Jesse Lytle, the Vice President and Chief of Staff for Haverford College. Dear Commissioners, on behalf of Haverford College, I write to support the application of the Rohr Center for Jewish Life, a Bod House, because it will better enable the center to host programming of high value to members of the Bi College community. I affirm the college's intention to continue to make available overflow parking on our campus for weekend and after-hours events that the Rohr Center holds at 780 College Avenue to serve our shared community. Because parking on our campus requires pedestrians across College Avenue, College also strongly advocates for continued attention to traffic calming, pedestrian safety, and they always put someone on the roadway if there's a big event. Actually, they're covering the traffic. So that's just a quick letter. The Haverford Township review letter offered by Chuck is dated January 2, 2025. I'll come back to the cover sheet, which has 5 waiver requests in a minute if I could, and that's the very bottom of the first page of the review letter. And then the next couple comments under the review, he discusses the fact that we were granted the special exception by the Zoning Hearing Board on June 6th under case 224-15. And then there are 6 zoning comments. 1, 2, and 4 are listed as addressed. Number 3 discusses the topic we had of the circular driveway, the existing circular driveway out front, where we did solicit and receive a determination from the zoning officer that the driveway as currently there, in his opinion, as a zoning officer, is compliant with the ordinance per se. So I believe you might have a copy of that letter. I received it well over a month ago. And we would therefore like to leave it. He does suggest in his review letter that he'd like us to put some signage for directing in and out. And we have actually added to the site civil plans signage showing do not enter, entrance, some arrows, and some directional signage. So we'll take care of that in the plan. Comment 5 on the zoning category is something we actually went over early with Kelly when she was a zoning officer. I've gone through a few zoning officers in my time here. And she determined we didn't need off-street parking or loading for this facility. And we sat down, Mr. Scott and I, with her, because we always sit down with the zoning officer early on and make sure we're not missing something, and that was her ruling to us. But we do still have the driveway on the left-hand side of the facility, which, currently the occupants of the house use. I'm going to leave it there and let it be a de facto loading if they need it. Plus, when the rabbi and his wife come to do service and worship, they can park in that driveway aside from the little 10-car lot that's on the easterly side of the property. So it just gives me 2 extra spaces. If you recall, when I started this project, we were over impervious ratio with the house, and by adding the 2 together, and even with the paving and the driveway on the right-hand side and the addition, we dropped into a compliant impervious ratios for the site. So we actually came from a non-compliant ratio down to a compliant ratio. So we're a couple % below the allowable total coverage. And then security lighting, in your little handouts, and I did not have it on the plan and 100%, we had not been able to find the township's lighting ordinance. It's a separate little piece that we had to locate. And kindly enough, I received a copy of it from Mr. Faulkner. He sent it to us. And we are compliant with the ordinance. It requires a minimum foot candles of 0.9 foot candles at all points. We're at 1.6 foot candles. It requires called a dark to light ratio that doesn't get you dark and light spots, and we're compliant with that. The cut sheets are in your little handouts, and the back of this drawing, which I know you want to see in detail, simply shows the illumination across the site. There's nothing that crosses the sight line. Above 0.1. Give you a flavor, we have about a full set.
Mr. Lynn, are the orange, are you adding parking lot lighting? Is that what the orange indicates?
Yes, there are 3 fixtures designated, 3 proposed, and they're the ones that produce this lighting pattern across. We're not going with the famous 1960 approach of putting wall packs and trying to shine outward. We're working with what I call a shoebox fixture cut off in there. It has the down light component, no back light. That's the 3 lights that cover candlelight.
Thank you.
And I'll let the engineer take his final look at that. I'm sure he will, but we do a full photometric, so there's no question about what we have. I believe that has worked me through the beginning comments of zoning, and that was comment number 6. And he indicates, again, thank you, partially addressed, and we'll certainly take a hard look. Working into subdivision and land development, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are listed by the review as addressed. Curbs and sidewalks, we have asked for waivers for both. There are some sidewalks across the street, just kind of flanking the mouth driveway entrance to the college. There's absolutely nothing on our side of the street. We have a beautiful ornamental fence on the front. We have a lot of foliage. We have a lot of trees. There's not a single sidewalk on our side of the street. Again, across the street's a very small portion of sidewalk. But, obviously, this is a not-for-profit. We're trying to within reason, minimize any cost we can avoid. So we're going to ask for the waivers, and how the commission treats those is certainly up to you for recommendation, negative or positive. That's 2 of our 5 waivers. Might as well dance back the waivers. One is we requested the ability to submit this as a preliminary/final plan. We've been here twice anyhow. I should have just done preliminary and final, but we did request it. The other waiver is a traffic impact study. We testified at length during the zoning hearing that we really don't have any traffic patterns that are different than we already have. We don't even frankly need the 10 parking spaces because most of the students walk across the street. They're not allowed to drive on the Sabbath anyhow. But we still, to comply with the ratio of the seats in the sanctuary, we produced the spaces, and that was working with Kelly, the zoning officer. That was her recommendation to put that number of spaces on, so we did. So we're asking for a waiver because, again, we're not creating any additional traffic on this project. And finally, it sounds silly, but we're asking for a 6 instead of an 8-inch curb reveal within the parking lot, just because it's a small parking lot. So they were the 5 waiver requests we can come back to. But moving on, in the general comments, I've gotten us up through number 11 and 12. Sewage facility planning module, we have to comply with. That's a will comply response. Obviously, we have to obtain the sewage planning modules or an exemption. Landscaping, if you recall last time I was here, I had an email from the Shade Tree Commission saying it looks good, but we don't have a formal motion. That letter you have in your packet is now the formal motion from the chair of the Shade Tree Commission that he is happy with what we did back and forth. And he actually worked with a raider tree and the rabbi who's been very sensitive to the plantings of the site since day one. So there was actually a compliment in that letter about the sensitivity towards the site, which I don't usually get, which thank you. I'm covered 14 and 15. There are 3 direct stormwater comments and 2 more. We believe the plans that you have in front of you, which in fairness to your engineer, he has only had a matter of a day or 2 to look at because we thought we were here in March, by the way, and I was pleasantly surprised on Monday. It was announced I was here tonight. So it was like we scrambled a little bit. Happy to always be here early, especially when I don't have a gas station with me. We scrambled. We think we're close. There were a couple cleanup comments. There was a sump condition. There was one that was confusing because it's the overflow drainage from the lawn drain and not from the parking lot. That was a level spreader. We think we've picked that up at this point. Obviously, we need to get a grading drainage and soil erosion and sediment control permit will be required. We'll have a separate application for that. So we get a bite at the apple at it now, and a second one when we do that application. And of course, the BMP maintenance agreement's a standard anymore, everywhere, as far as contributing to the township stormwater control and the BMP operation and maintenance fund. We'll work with the solicitor and the engineer on that. So I believe, and the 28 was additional elevations. And we did some new spot elevations to make sure we don't have any sumping or problems with the flow. 21, 22, 23, and 25 are listed as addressed. Last page of the review letter. The level spreader, we've moved it back 8 feet away from the right-of-way, and we can, again, work on any other detailing. We're trying to work around trees as well, so we don't want to disturb trees. And 30 was the comment I made. I talked about the sump condition and the infiltration bed cross-section. We believe we have it cleaned up at this moment, but again, I defer to your engineer's expertise on the comments. I went fast, I know, but I'm just trying to give an executive summary of my review of the comments, and we can go back in detail and talk about any that planner, your engineer, or you have, or any questions you have. I'm not a civil engineer, I'm an architect. I didn't bring a civil engineer with me for my staff, but I'll do the best I can.
Thank you. I'm going to start with the Planning Commission if anybody has any questions or comments that they would like to make. And again, we'll start with Steve. We'll give our new members a reprieve from having them dive right in.
What was that? Just one open question here. Maybe I should know this as a civil engineer. What's a level spreader? I see it's listed on here, and there was a comment.
Level spreader is something where you collect a certain amount of stormwater in a device, whether it's an inlet or a catch basin. You take it to an underground pipe, and then instead of simply discharging it as a point discharge, where you could do that if you put a lot of stone riprap to break the energy of the stormwater coming out, you put almost, I'll call it looks like a rake sticking out that's got a series of outlets, and you put some energy dissipation after it, but it takes all the energy of the water and distributes it across a flat area instead of just putting it as a point discharge. And your engineer can comment if I missed it, but that's my interpretation of a level spreader.
That's a pretty good interpretation for an architect.
Thank you.
Basically, that's the premise of it. It's spread out, so it's not a high discharge or a high velocity, and just sort of bubbles up. A lot of time they call them bubble up level spreaders. And
So does it work?
What's that?
So does it work?
It does work when properly designed and installed. Yes.
Yeah, and this is the first time we've had any stormwater management on this site at all. There's zero right now. So this is certainly, number one, we reduced impervious. And number two, we actually have some stormwater management, grab it, control it, and dissipate it at a controlled rate. A little underground, a little bit as a level spreader. The level spreader is just for the lawn catch, but there is an actual underground basin for the parking lot as well.
Gotcha. I see the letter from the zoning about the ruling. There was a discussion from the parking lot width,
Yes.
so that's helpful. Would it be helpful? I guess most students are walking across the street. Is there any benefit of adding any crosswalk, or is that a challenge with it being a state road? Or
It's a challenge being a state road. To add a crosswalk on a PennDOT controlled highway is about an act of Congress. I see as I come here today from my office in Upper Providence Township, the 5 illuminated flashing signal crosswalks all the way into the place. I always thought they should only flash when someone's crossing, because I'm always looking at the yellow flash, and I'm waiting for someone to be crossing there. So I think they ought to flash only when someone's crossing. That's just me. When there's minimal people cross, you have great sight visibility both ways. There's no crowns of hills or dips or inverts. You can see everybody coming from a quarter mile both directions. Frankly, right now, the one thing I'm pleased by, in the circular driveway, you get one car parked in it. I've had to back out onto the road without any visibility. That I've eliminated. So the thing I always worried about was vehicular circulation, where I was backing out, was hoping and crossing my fingers because you can't see. So now we have the flow around. You can't park and block the driveway. We've got the complete vehicular circulation. I don't think there's any student problems, but in a big event, they always post someone at the highway in a little orange vest. So there aren't many big events, but that's been the protocol to date.
okay.
I'm a neighbor, and I often cross College Avenue to walk around Haverford College. And
You're still alive and here today.
I'm here today to
Thank
tell
you.
the story, yes.
It's a testimony I like.
Sometimes I take the bridge, the overpass,
Yeah.
but a lot of times I cross and there's a set of steps.
Yep.
And the steps are probably where you'd want to have something if PennDOT
Yeah.
will approve it.
You go a
in
little
the way of a
farther down.
crosswalk.
Yeah, there's some sight distance problems if you go another quarter mile down towards but right there, it's just a beautiful place to do it. So it's got great visibility both ways. Thank you. Appreciate that input.
I appreciate you addressing that issue of backing up, because I pulled out of the college with my car there, and that's definitely squirrely. So great that that's done.
Thank you.
Actually, the only thing that comes to mind here, given the sort of connection with the college, is at a lot of campuses, there are these emergency phones in case someone's, feels like they're in distress, or there may be somebody out there who's going to attack them or something. Is that something that's been considered, given their students going back and forth?
I've never asked the question. Do they have any on the actual campus itself?
I believe so, yes.
They do. I mean, we could certainly ask the college if they want to put one right at that intersection. We will have it indoors. Indoors. But that's just indoors. So if I mean, we'll certainly, obviously, I'm appreciative of the college's support. We'll certainly reach out, see if they wanted to extend. I don't know where the closest call box is. I remember when I took my daughter down to Temple, they were really proud of telling me they had a blue light emergency thing every 66 feet. I wasn't sure if that gave me a comfort level or a lack of comfort that I needed every 66 feet. But I don't suspect we have a lot of problems on the college campus here from everything I've read, but we'll certainly have a conversation with the college to see if they want to put one on their end of the street.
Thank you.
Good point. I didn't think of it. Thank you.
It's relevant.
If you'd like to make a comment, could you please come to the microphone and introduce yourself?
Sure then. Hi, I'm Blummy. I'm the rabbi's wife. What I was going to say is that if it's helpful to know that when we do have large events, the same way the college allows us to use parking, they also have campus safety will also come. They'll come, yeah, they'll either come to our side, or they usually actually stay on their side, or they'll circle around. So we keep them like up to date with what's going on so that they're aware and, you know, keeping the place, you know, doubly checked over, I guess, besides for the security cameras and stuff.
And the one beauty is this is not a new installation. This is a 14-year-old facility. They've been doing this 14 years, so it's not we're just trying it for the first time. So the history is behind us, at least. I think that speaks volumes to me.
David? Okay. Angela?
Rabbi, could I ask you a couple questions? Come on down. Your service is normally on Friday evening?
We have Shabbat dinners on Friday evenings, yes.
Okay, and that starts at sundown?
7:15.
Okay. And you have
7 or 7.
you have students walking to the synagogue, right?
Well, to the dining area, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, right now it's everything's in one
And
place.
they're coming from
It's a dinner.
they're coming from the Bryn Mawr, but also Haverford.
Yes.
And they
when
cross
come from,
and they cross the street.
correct.
Okay.
And we do have a security guard every Friday night.
Okay.
And they're usually taking the shuttle, which stops right across the
Okay.
street. I don't know if you know the college, it's kind of 100, not
And-
even 100 yards.
About how many do you usually have? How many people come to your service on Fridays? Average.
Fluctuates. It'll be 30 to 60.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's quite a few. Okay, and I assume the service lasts an hour or longer.
But it's a service and a dinner, so it could be
Okay.
an hour and a half, 2 hours.
All right. Would it make sense to install an extra light right at the driveway entrance to the property, just to light up the driveway? I noticed that the foot candles kind of drop off as you get close to the right of way there.
But what I would say is, I don't know if I have permission from my architect, but if it's allowed by the code and it doesn't distract the neighbors, I would absolutely encourage to add that.
Right. It's allowed by code because we require streetlights on developments, and they're out in the middle of an
Absolutely.
intersection.
We will absolutely add that.
I think that might help, especially with the nighttime services, just to brighten that area up a little bit.
Angela, that works. We're around 0.5 foot candles
Yeah.
per person driveway mouth, which is okay. But you're right. It would also perhaps identify something's occurring there, just that sense, that little dome of light. So that's quite a good suggestion. Happy to comply with it.
Okay. Going to PennDOT, trying to get a mid-block crosswalk installed is like next to impossible. Yes.
As I said.
But that would be a good alternative. Okay. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
I'd like to support Angelo's suggestion because I've reached that age where I'm starting to realize that not every driver can see as well in the dark. And so having that extra light
And
could
we've had,
possibly avoid accidents.
I mean, we have sometimes like, the elderly come speak, and we've had someone from the city, and they were like, "This is the suburbs. It's really dark here." So, we definitely agree that light brings safety. It brings warmth, as long as it's not overdone, obviously, and sensitive to the neighbors. I also do want to say that the sidewalks. I don't know if is there any, if you're from the area, there are no sidewalks on our side. It would actually decrease the safety because it would be a sidewalk to nowhere. But I do think there should be a sidewalk across the street, and there is almost a full road of sidewalks, but for some reason, there's a little stretch where for some reason, you have to kind of go into the college. But anyway, just wanted to bring that up.
The sidewalk outside the gate doesn't extend down to the corner, as I recall. It goes for like,
Well, what happens is there is a walking area on an entire block, but for a certain part of the stretch, you have to go into the walking trail.
right.
But it's very dark at night, or you could go into the so there is ways to kind of walk safely, but I witness a lot of people just who don't know about that, and they just kind of go, and it is a dark road, and if you're not a student, you don't even know to go in. But that's not my job. But
It's probably your best sidewalk picture across the street. College, solid from one that goes in there. A lot of vegetation. That sidewalk across the street.
Yeah, you can actually, on your side of the street, you can actually see where people have walked a trail into, like, outside of the shoulder. There's a tread where you can see the grass has been worn down because people walk on that shoulder there. Well, also people, because that's where I walk, because I'm right around the corner from you guys too.
yeah, I mean, there should be a sidewalk across the street, and if they make it, I'll make a donation because it should be there. But
We have you on record now saying that. Thank you very much.
I'll be happy.
Yeah, and I understand your comment. As I get a bit more patina on me, my eyesight isn't quite what it used to be either. And I'll be 73 this year, so I'm starting to actually use glasses when I drive at night. My God, what can I say?
All right, Kim, any comments, questions? Vic?
No, thanks for trying to get us up to speed, us new guys.
Apologize, I could spend 2
That's
hours.
all right.
But
There's a lot here. I did highlight, you said 0 opposition from community and full support of the college, so.
which is nice, which
okay.
you don't always have that, but it was, in this particular case, we did.
Yeah,
So
all right. Well, thanks.
that's the 14 years of them being there, their history. That's why I said it's not new. It's not like, what is this new venture? It's not new. It's been tried and tested and proven, and it appears to be working with a lot of support, so. I want to get it right, too. I want to get the details right.
I'm actually gonna just ask Chuck if he I mean, I know you haven't had a chance to review these plans. So we're seeing them in real time today and seeing your review letter, so your response letter to the review letter from last week. Chuck, do you see, based on the response, the review of the responses that we just went through, do you see anything that would be challenging, problematic, or of concern to you in meeting some of your outstanding comments? They do appear primarily related to stormwater management.
You're right. We haven't had a chance to look at the revised plans, but to answer your question, Maggie, I don't see anything that's insurmountable for them to do. The stormwater is a matter of details primarily. The system works. He's proved that. It's just a matter of tweaking a few things here and there to constructability, to make constructability a little easier and maintenance easier too. So that's the primary gist of the stormwater management stuff. Everything else is relatively straightforward in my mind, to be honest.
Great.
And I don't see anything that they, like I said, they can't address.
Okay, thank you.
And I appreciate it. And of course, we were, of course, very happy with its, if any motions tied to compliance with the January 3rd letter. That way we can work back and forth any final details we have.
Of course.
And we'll certainly do that.
All right, so I just want to touch then on the waivers. So you have 5 waivers listed on your plan here. The one waiver is from section 160-4.A, requiring, so this is to do a joint preliminary final land development plan. The waiver number 2 is section 160-4.E.5. Is that L or
think it's an
I?
I. I think it's
Or
an I.
1?
It's
It's
an I.
small. It's an I? I, thank you. I'm also getting to a point where I need some glasses. Requiring a traffic impact study for land development plans involving commercial or industrial uses. This is a non-residential use, which is why this would have come into play. So the ask is to not provide a traffic impact study due to the impact on traffic. Waiver number 3 is from section 160-4.E.5E4. I feel like I'm at the eye doctor saying these. Requiring all storm, sanitary, and water lines within 400 feet of the site to be depicted on the plans. Waiver number 4 is section 160-5.B4A and C related to the sidewalks and curbing. And then waiver number 5 is the design standards for curbs. This is an 8-inch, or asking for a 6-inch reveal rather than an 8-inch reveal. And you said this was specifically for the curbing within the new parking area, correct? Okay.
Correct.
So what I would like to do is, rather than go through each one individually, just get a sense from the planning commission members if you would generally support, well, I guess we could actually, let's just quickly go through each of the waivers. Does anybody have any substantive comments or questions about any of the waivers, first of all, before we get started? Okay, does anybody have any objections to waiver number 1? I'm sorry, waiver number, this would be for the preliminary final joint. It's on the big one.
I can come back next month.
It's right here. They're all listed right here.
I've got a half an hour next month.
Okay. Seeing no opposition, waiver number 2, this was for the provision of the traffic impact study. No objections, thank you. Waiver number 3, this is for showing all of the storm sanitary and water lines within 400 feet. And this is just because we're not seeing any impact on surrounding. Okay, thank you. Number 4, this is for streets. So this is actually 2 separate ordinance provisions. One's for the sidewalks and one's for the curbing, which we just discussed. It seems everyone is in support of this. And then for the curbing, the 6-inch reveal. Okay, I'm seeing nodding. Perfect. Great. Okay. So with that being said, in recognition that we still have some outstanding comments in the engineer's review letter, but hearing that the predominant outstanding comments are either technical in nature or are minor, what I would like to ask the Planning Commission is, given that we are all generally in favor of the waivers, and I personally don't feel like there's anything in this review letter that wouldn't be able to be accomplished through further negotiations and revisions between the engineer and the applicant, between the township's engineer and the applicant. I would ask if there's anybody on the Planning Commission tonight who would be interested in making a recommendation, a motion to recommend approval of the preliminary final on the condition that they would comply with all outstanding review comments in the engineer's review letter from January 2nd, 2025, and with all of the 5 waivers that they have requested.
I'm happy to make that motion. Would you like me to repeat that, or shall I just adopt what you said?
You can just adopt that motion.
I adopt the motion as stated by our chair.
Very good. Any second? I'm sorry. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but I have to add an amendment.
Yes, please. Any comments or questions or additions to the motion?
Yes, that additional light be added at the intersection of College Avenue and the entrance to the site.
Thank you, Angelo. Lou, do you accept Angelo's amendment to
do.
your motion? Thank you. Any comments or questions from the Planning Commission? Seeing none, any comments or questions from our audience? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Angela?
And just to be clear, we're approving the preliminary final land development plan and re-subdivision of the property.
Yes.
2 things we're approving.
Yes, the subdivision land development plan for the Jewish Student Enrichment Center, Shabbat House at 780 and 788 College Avenue, for clarity. Very good. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time last month, this month. The side table's been incredibly supportive back and forth. These smaller projects are as tough as the big ones, as I said to Chuck, and it's, we do some pretty big stuff. And these little ones are, you got to get into the details to make them work. So appreciate the review. Thank you. And I think we've got a successful project coming up here. All of you, and welcome aboard. Okay,
Best of luck with the project. We look forward to seeing your improvements when they're complete.
thank you.
Absolutely. I will certainly be walking by as I do live in the neighborhood.
I just want to say thank you. It's been a chance for me to see the zoning and the planning commissions and dealing with all the neighbors, and I know it's a volunteer position, and just want to say thank you to everyone.
Thank you,
Been an
Rabbi.
ed-
Appreciate that.
Been an education for you, right?
It has.
Yeah.
And for one, I brought my 13-year-old to the Shade Tree Commission. He was very, he's thinking about becoming an arborist. But it was an educational experience for him. But thank you, really.
Good
Wonderful.
luck to you.
Thank you.
Engineering.
Let's finish up the meeting and then we.
Yeah.
Okay, if I can
Yeah, please.
recall everyone back. All right, our final agenda item is the review and approval of the Planning Commission meeting minutes from November 14th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented for the November 14th Planning Commission meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right, Angelo motions, Lou seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Final, public comment or citizens forum. If we have anybody in the audience who wishes to come up, please come to the podium and state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name's Michael Lee, and my address is 304 Fairlamb Avenue, Havertown, Pennsylvania. And I'm here to talk about the comprehensive plan. And really, I sent all of you an email earlier today, or tried to. I have copies of it if anybody wants to see it, or if I can give it to someone. Pardon me? Okay, great. Thanks.
Yes. And also, I have a new email address, and after the meeting, if anybody would like that address, I'd be happy to provide it. Thank you. Oh, you got one more? You got it?
I do have questions on the attachment and the planning commission's responsibilities as far as the comprehensive plan goes. And basically, the reason why I'm here is I'm asking for your help. What we've been told is on December 19th, the comprehensive plan was released. And there's, I believe, a 45-day minimum required period for citizens review for a plan. And they sent it out 2 weeks before Christmas. And I think there's been one constant contact email sent out announcing this, and if I'm correct. And basically, we're supposed to have written comments back on February 2nd, and then they're going to have a 45-minute thing where we can give comments before the meeting on February 3rd, and that just seems totally inadequate. Because I've been going through this comprehensive 2035 plan. It's totally different than the 2022 plan. It has new analysis. It looks at 2024 studies, the PROS plan, and the Safe Streets for All. It even says that it has new data analysis, new summary of data for using AI. So there's a lot of stuff going on with this. So I went through it twice. I highlighted it. I just don't understand it. And my feeling is that we need to have public meetings on it. It has to be explained to residents. And the reason why I put this attachment on here is because it talks about your requirements And it says here that I think you have to have one public meeting at least before you forward something to the whatever the Board of Commissioners would be. Now, I don't think that's been done, and it just really need help. I just don't understand it. And this thing about it having all new stuff in it, you'd expect that because it's from the original plan was from 2022, and all sorts of things have happened since 2022 in the township. And I just want to know what's going on. And I would like to have more of my neighbors and other people in the township know that it exists, have it explained to them. So anyway, any help you can give would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to take all public comment first before responding, so we'll hear from everybody first, and then we can respond.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
Hello. Some of you might remember me. I'm Mac Wagner. I live at 2422 Rosewood Lane. I'm also here about the comprehensive plan. In the past, I've said that I'm very distrusting of this whole concept, and so starting from that position and getting this unloaded on us with the speed that Mike just referred to has not, endured more confidence. So I dug out the old comprehensive plan, which I don't know if you might remember. I took it to Montana with me. It was a long flight, and I got to do a lot of reading of it. And so the last time that I was here, you guys said the meeting should have been held with the steering committee and recommended reassembling the steering committee and more public input. That was on 12/8, so I guess of 2023? 22. So then the steering committee went to the commissioners and to the planning commission and have extensive comments and 10 public meetings and 2 versions and blah, blah, blah. Needs substantial revision for form and substance. Move to recommend back to the steering committee as the planning agency tasked with revising the draft comprehensive plan. And the vote was 5 and 2 not present. You guys told us to stay involved. However, we have not been able to stay involved in this. The plan was being sent back to the Board of Commissioners and polishing. And ta-da, now we have a new comprehensive plan. Even though I've asked for updates at Board of Commissioner meetings, my input and my questions, no one is addressed. As best I can tell, only on page 28 so far, there's been a change from the SurveyMonkey input. The previous comprehensive plan said, quote, Haverford will maintain a responsible local government that provides plentiful opportunities for public engagement. Previous goal was strengthen older commercial areas with physical improvements, promote Oakmont and the adjacent commercial sections of Eagle and Darby Road as a town center. But yet we keep getting references to town centers on Haverford Road. I live on Rosewood, and there's some places that I can look out my window and see DMI. And apparently, that side of the street is where they're talking about putting in these buildings that are going to be 3 stories high. I really don't see that. I mean, I can't see that. DMI is only maybe 2 stories, so now I'm looking at 3 stories. I don't think there's the depth there, and then also, when it rains, you know, it's like a basin, and it fills up. And then they talk about underground parking and things of that nature, and underground swimming pools. I don't know. On page 28 of the Haverford 2035 plan, specifically about Haverford Road corridor, maybe what we are saying about the road diet and traffic in previous comprehensive plans was heard. Specifically, this is quoted, sorry, proposed lane merge areas and increased ways at traffic signals along the corridor raised serious concerns. Careful study of this potential is required before finalizing any policy decisions. But they keep referring to the fact that they seem to want to do a town center in that area. Town center at the edge of the community. Town center in the center. Because the P&W's there. The Survey Monkey never asked anybody whether or not if they were taking the P&W, now called the M line, into the city. They didn't give them the option of saying, no, thank you. It was always, you know, for different reasons. So you don't get all the people answering that question. I'm not taking the P&W for love or money. As far as I'm aware, the P&W is not going further than Norristown. They're, you know, they've tried to consider taking it out to King of Prussia, but I don't think that that is going to happen. They seem to have shelved that plan. And otherwise, if you take the P&W into 69th Street, then you get on the L. I mean, you might be much better off to drive over to Wynwood and get the R5 and go down to Center City. But anyway, I'm only on page 28, comparing it with what I already know, and I've already found these questionable things that, and then the objective, at the end, it says, ensure that township policies allow for denser development and a mixture of uses within 10-minute walk sheds of transit stations, particularly on Haverford Road. I don't like the word ensure. That sort of means like somebody might be twisting my arm. I said I'm not very trusting. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Dory Dowdy, 2417 Rosewood Lane. I have some handouts too, but I didn't print out enough for everybody, so you want me to just hand them? And I might have to give one at the end, if that's okay. I sent something on December 31st, so.
If this was the email, I have a copy.
That was from December 31st?
I think I've received, I've received a couple emails from you.
Last night too, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so if you want to share that with.
Oh, okay.
You giving it to Jean?
Oh, I did, you want me to?
She's the one that's supposed to be taking all these comments.
Okay. I have another one that I need to use because I forgot to print them all out. So, let's see. Good evening. My name is Dory Dowdy. I'm a resident of Haverford Township, 2417 Rosewood Lane. First, I want to say I agree with the comments that Mike and Meg has stated regarding needing an extension of the review period and for there to be public meetings to help explain this new comprehensive plan. Second, I can recall Mr. Shannon saying in a meeting back in the fall of 2023 about an issue that was wanting to be approved by your commission, why this, why now, if you recall. I'd like to add, why so rushed? Why this, why now, why so rushed? When referring to this rapid timeline for this new comprehensive plan. What's the reason for it to be so rushed? Why did it take 2 years to do reformatting for clarity and consistency? Something doesn't seem quite right, and I'd like to know, as many of us on this side of the aisle here would like to know why it took so long and why it's now being so rushed. Mr. Berman, back in 2022, said that the 2022 comprehensive plan needed to go back to the steering committee for reformatting for clarity and consistency. My background is in IT, data analysis for 15 years, and then graphic design for about 15 years, the same amount of time. I don't think we're on the same page when it comes to the definition of what reformatting for clarity and consistency means, which might be why the Planning Commission is treating this 2024 plan content as not being changed from the 2022 plan. In my experience as a graphic designer, the definition of reformatting for clarity and consistency primarily focuses on improving the visual appeal and readability of the existing content. This process involves adjusting formatting elements such as margins, alignment, spacing, fonts, and use of headings and subheadings to ensure a cohesive and organized structure. The main goal is to make the document easier to read and to navigate, but the core content remains largely unchanged during the reformatting process. This new 2024 plan definitely has been reformatted, I'll say that for sure, but it has also been substantially changed in the content from the 2022 plan, as Mike just mentioned and Meg did too. And we would like to have the opportunity to review that, have it explained to those who have developed this plan to us. And it's my understanding that the Planning Commission, as per what appears on the Haverford Township website, is responsible, one of the last sentences on that description of your roles, is responsible for promoting interest and an understanding of the comprehensive plan to the public. I urge you all to do the right thing on this for the Planning Commission to recommend to recommend the Board of Commissioners that this needs to go through the same process that the 2022 plan went through, as though this is a new plan. An extension period, possibly to at least 90 days, transparency on updates, publishing a detailed summary of the changes between the 2022 and the 2024 drafts, including the rationale behind new content and how the public feedback was informed on these updates and how it's going to impact us, and public hearings for engagement. I really request a serious consideration be given to the input being offered by the residents of Haverford Township regarding this plan, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
This was the other one too, I don't know whether.
Was this from last night?
Last night, yeah, so.
Yeah, I have that in my email.
Okay, so.
Yeah, if you can give that to Jamie.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, thank you all three for showing up tonight. We did receive your emails, those of us that were on that email chain, and for your comments as well tonight. So just wanted to touch on a couple of things.
Do you want to have comments first or no? You want to comment? Okay. Yeah, I have a few things too.
According to the township solicitor, the way that the process, so the MPC dictates that the Planning Commission has to review the comprehensive plan. As you recall, and I think you were at many of those hearings, we did have 10 Planning Commission meetings where the comprehensive plan was discussed, and we all agreed that it needed to go back for further editing, which is what was done. However, according to the solicitor, the Planning Commission has already fulfilled our legal obligations under that municipality's planning code to review the planning or the comprehensive plan document, because we reviewed that document, we provided our feedback, and that was then sent back to, we'll have a chance for, that was sent back then to the finishing committee, or the commissioners, who authored the finishing committee to then revise and update the plan. If you look at the core recommendations, they haven't substantively changed. The formatting, the wording has changed, and it's packaged in a much nicer way. But ultimately, the comp plan is now with the Board of Commissioners, and it is not really within our legislative jurisdiction any further to review the comprehensive plan again. We do understand, and it is our expectation that the township will host a community meeting in the coming weeks to receive additional input on the draft. And then based on those comments, we were told that the township will make additional revisions to the updated draft comprehensive plan. We don't have any information about that. Again, we're advisory to the commissioners, but it is our understanding that the township will host additional meetings and opportunities for additional public input, which will be advertised through Constant Contact, website, social media, and then I'm told that it's going to be discussed at the commissioners meeting on Monday night on the 13th. So next Monday night at the commissioners meeting, there will be additional information about how additional public comment will be taken at that time. So it is not the intent of the Planning Commission at this time to review the comprehensive plan or provide any additional feedback on the current draft. Once the comp plan does go out for that 45-day public comment, you can revise that plan kind of throughout the creation process. And now that it's gone out for the official public comment, we, the Planning Commission, have already fulfilled that legal requirement to review it. So it is not our intent to review it again at this point, but it does sound like the township will, has heard the concerns and will be providing that additional opportunity for feedback and revisions. David, did you want to? Well,
Go ahead.
yes, sir.
I've gone extensively through this thing, and I've gone extensively before through 2022, and they're nothing alike. And the recommendations are totally different. And it's based upon studies that came along in 2024, the Safe Streets for All and the PROS studies. I think you're really abdicating your responsibility to us as citizens. You have a responsibility to inform the public and keep us involved and keep us up to date. And it sounds like you're just caving and giving up your responsibilities.
We're taking our direction from the township solicitor. We don't work, we work for the township.
But you have a municipal planning
We work for
code.
the township. We bet that.
May I have the
obligation.
floor?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind saying something because I have a few comments.
Recognizing its imperfect world, it's often difficult when there's added confusion. Standing in the shoes of the public, I can see how when a process comes through our commission, that you would think that would come back through. But the reality is it was a ad hoc committee that formulated the comprehensive plan. It came to us in order to do that task of eliciting input from the community. It went back to an ad hoc committee, and this is under the auspices of the commissioners who are now, I understand from what the chair said, going to conduct some further engagement with the community on this document. So whether it's all new, nothing new, or somewhere in between, ultimately, the appropriate thing is for additional input on this additional round of draft. And so therefore you have your recourse. That's my thinking on this. Thank you.
I just have a question. It talks about the comprehensive plan adoption. And it talks about before adopting or amending a comprehensive plan or any part thereof, the Planning Commission should hold at least one public meeting before forwarding the proposed comprehensive plan or amendment there to the governing board. So shouldn't you be reviewing this document?
We did have 10 meetings on the comprehensive plan, and we did refer it to the commissioners. The commissioners then created the additional steering committee for the finishing committee to work on the draft plan. Frankly, all of our comments were captured in that 10-meeting process because we had lots of
Put
public
this
comment.
back in 2022.
Understand, but our comments were captured in those meetings that went to the finishing committee and were incorporated into the current draft. So from a practical perspective, for it to come before the Planning Commission again, it wouldn't necessarily, in terms of having the public feedback, because we're advisory, we've already provided our feedback to the commissioners on this. Frankly, the public comment period is now better served by these additional opportunities for public engagement that the township will be offering through this review process.
Okay, I see this is municipal planning code, state of Pennsylvania. And you're telling me, my reading of it is, it doesn't apply to you. And
It
I
does
think
apply to
clearly
us, and we
says
have
that.
already
Can
met our
can you explain it
obligation.
to me? I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just a citizen trying to stand up for our rights here. And I feel like we're being steamrolled. And I think that people, particularly along the Haverford Road corridor and the Brookline Road area, they have a right to know what's going to happen to them. And what this document, now I understand, is there fast-track zoning changes now?
No. David, do you want to make some comments?
Didn't Jamie say that at the last meeting? I thought I heard her say that. I wasn't here,
No.
but I saw on TV.
No, what happened was the township put out an RFP to hire a planning consulting firm to work on zoning updates. So once the comprehensive plan is
Right, and the top-
adopted,
There's 15 high-priority things in here for the things, and that's why I disagree with you about changes not being made. 5 of them are about, or 4 are about fast-tracking zoning. One's about the pros plan, and one's about safe streets for all. So that's 6 of the things weren't around for the 15 high-priority things we're going to do for the next 2 to 5 years. I mean, I think my statements are correct.
thank you. David?
Well, I would agree that we take our direction from the commissioners, and the commissioners have not directed this body to review the latest draft comprehensive plan 2035. And as Lou pointed out, the initial draft, the 2 drafts, were the product of we're not the product of the Planning Commission. And it was said that this current draft is the Planning Commission's draft. That is also not the case. As others have pointed out, the late 2022, it was referred to back to the commissioners and has not since then been before the Planning Commission. So it is accurate to say there has been no discussion by the Planning Commission of the new draft. There were 10 meetings, however, of the initial draft by the ad hoc committee. As you have said, the main goal was the reformatting and rewording of the draft, which was an awful lot of work by those who did it, and it certainly is much more readable and clear and has appropriate headings. So I would say the formatting and the wording are a big improvement. However, I believe the solicitor's opinion is based on inaccurate information. Our 10 hearings, our 10 meetings were on the existing plan. So the question is, does the current plan embody or present a clarification, refinement of the original plans or not? I can't speak to the whole township, and I haven't been able to compare the maps for the entire township. I can speak, well, you mentioned Brookline is one area, South Ardmore is another. I can speak for my neighborhood and the comments I've gotten from some of my neighbors that there are substantial material changes to the 2022 plans that came out of after the 10 meetings of our planning commission. In the initial drafts, in the earlier drafts of the comprehensive plan, through 2022 and at the 10 meetings, there was nothing in those plans about creating a commercial corridor between College, to speak to my neighborhood, between College Avenue and Township Line or Landover Road. It wasn't there. It wasn't proposed by the ad hoc committee. Therefore, there was no discussion, to my recollection, of that there should be a commercial corridor along Haverford Road between College and County Line, Landover. Indeed, the neighbors in that area, the residential community, have opposed commercial development on Haverford Road and the further commercial development within that neighborhood. And we don't have to go into all that tonight, but I'll just mention there are a lot of non-conforming uses within that neighborhood, and which I'll just leave it at that are commercial, and the neighbors have tried not to let the residential character of the neighborhood deteriorate any further. Which is not to say that they're opposed or in favor of something on Haverford Road. It just hasn't ever been discussed and was not part of the 10 meetings. So when our solicitor says it's been already discussed, I would have to say he's assuming that the elements of this plan are merely a continuation of the previous plans. To conclude, there was also, I don't recall any plan calling for the dense housing within the neighborhood, changing the zoning of the neighborhood to high density. I don't recall that. But I haven't been able to go back and, it's hard to go back and forth because the, pardon? I'm sorry,
The recommendation is a land use classification, not a zoning district.
I'm not sure I understand this. Whatever it is, it's calling this.
The difference between the map that you're talking about is the future land use map, which is different from zoning.
Well, it's not it's a plan. It's a comprehensive plan. It's not a zoning document.
It's a perceived land use typology that's envisioned, which includes twins. It maintains the existing character of the neighborhood, which is classified as inclusive of a high density. I don't recall exactly what its definition of high density, but I just want to clarify. This is a pet peeve of mine. Land use and zoning are not the same thing, and they shall not be used interchangeably, because one is what's being currently used on a property as land use, and one is zoning, which is the underlying classification as to what types of land uses are permitted there. So they're not the same thing, and it doesn't call for changes of zoning when you see a change in a land use classification, because it's likely that that land use is already permitted as a use type in that zoning district. It's just where that development goes is the land use classification.
Well, whether it's, assuming it's land use, the comprehensive plan draft 2035 appears to call for a higher density within the neighborhood. And I don't believe that also was considered in the earlier drafts. But for sure, there was never any discussion before this body or in any of the drafts of a commercial development of a commercial corridor on the section of Haverford Road, certainly between College, the Haverford College, and the end of the township at Landover County Line.
If I recall, David, I believe it's classified as mixed use, not commercial.
Mixed use includes commercial. The mixed use is residential with, again, I'm not talking about zoning, I'm just talking about what's in the plan.
Right.
The plan calls for, if it's mixed use, I have to go back to the plan and it's hard to read, but I'm looking at it and it is not mixed use commercial now. It is, I don't think we should be debating it now because township has not, the commissioners have not, let me finish, the commissioners have not directed us to discuss it. And I'm very happy to hear that there's going to be meetings for the public, because I know you speak for yourselves and others, and I've heard these comments from many others in my area. And the idea of having, I'll just say it hasn't been proposed before. And not just the idea of Haverford Road, whatever you call it, it includes commercial, first floor, commercial building with up above having residential. And there are on both the critical, well, on both sides of Haverford Road, not just on the, I call it the south side, but the plans call it the east side or the west. No, that's the west side. The north side or west, north side or east is the northeast side is not zoned. It is all zoned today, zoned as a residential district. It has non-conforming use, or I'm sorry, residential, institutional, or office, not commercial, not mixed-use commercial, not neighborhood commercial, residential, or institutional. And again, I don't want to go into the history of how certain institutional and offices developed, but it is not zoned for commercial, mixed-use commercial, neighborhood commercial on the north or east side of Haverford Road. And again, that was not in the plan. Not at all.
For what it's worth, mixed use doesn't always necessarily inherently mean every single building has to have a mix of uses in the building, but that there are a mix of uses within that corridor, which is actually an existing condition.
I think that's something that people need to discuss. The plan says mixed use with commercial first floor. That doesn't mean every building, every developer is going to come in and do that. Some may not.
Excuse me, David. David, I have a question. If I understand correctly, the conversation right now is something that'd be well served to be had when whatever that engagement is that gets scheduled in January, as opposed to here. Because
I agree.
It doesn't.
I said this body is not,
right.
We haven't been directed. This is the commissioner's decision. We have not been directed. Everything we've done, including the 10 hearings we had, were at the direction of the commissioners. Everything we didn't do was at the direction that someone else did, was at the direction of the commissioners. Tonight would not be I agree, tonight's not an appropriate time to go back and forth on what is now proposed. I am just pointing out that what is proposed for a commercial corridor on Haverford Road on the northeast side of northeast section of corner of from College, the Haverford College to Landover County line was not something proposed before and was not a subject at the 10 meetings we held for the public. It's new and therefore was never reviewed by us and never sent to the commissioners with our recommendation or comments.
Can I come up just to ask one more thing?
Yes, please.
So it sounds as though it's not going to be interaction with your commission, with any of us that have this. So it goes to the Board of Commissioners. Is anybody on that board qualified, like you all are, to answer some of these interesting questions that you guys are talking about? I mean, I feel as though you are the experts at this kind of stuff, and I'm not questioning whether they are or not, because I have no idea about their backgrounds. But, I mean, it seems like this is the place where this kind of stuff should be talked about. And now we're going to be talking to people who are just looking at, what is it? I mean, why is this being rushed? I guess I'll have to ask them that. I'm not going to, that's a rhetorical one, don't worry about it. But I'm wondering if we're going to be able to get a dialogue with people who understand what this plan even is. I mean, I don't really understand the plan. I'm looking to you guys to help us. But, if we're going to go to that meeting, I don't know how it's going to, roll out. So it's nothing about this. I appreciate your explanation.
Sure. And I guess the question would be,
I just
Jamie-
wanted to comment on that because I will be at those meetings and I do know what the plan really is and I will be that resource.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Yes, so I, again, just to kind of wrap up in conclusion, so we will not be looking at the comprehensive plan again, but there will be additional opportunities for public engagement. Jamie, it sounds like we'll be at those meetings. She was the one who worked on the rewrite the most intensely. She is the most familiar with the document and can answer all of your specific questions. Again, we were not involved in the rewrite. So we, again, we appreciate you coming and sharing your concerns. But there will be additional opportunities, so please stay tuned to the commissioners' meeting next Monday. There will be additional information presented at that time in terms of when and how those public engagement opportunities will come up next for you. Okay, thank you very much.
Can I say one thing before we go?
Yeah.
Just because we're not acting on this as a commission doesn't mean that individually we're not going to have comments to submit, just like you folks will, okay? So as far as your concerns about whether or not the commissioners are qualified to understand, I can speak for myself, I can speak for David. They're going to hear from us individually of what we think about the plan. I will say one more thing, and I don't mean to aggravate you guys, but as far as your stretch of Haverford Road goes, okay, between the bus lane and the bowling alley, in my read of the two documents, there's nothing that's changed. Okay?
That's fine. Okay, is there anything else from the public? Thank you. Anything else for the commissioners for the good of the order? Very good. Well, do I have a motion to conclude this evening's meeting?
So moved.
David moves. Any seconds?
I second.
Lou seconds. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. Stay warm, everybody.